Tag TV and Tag Radio be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. An economic development authority focused on one huge, crucially important objective: the expansion of the in-town city of Atlanta economy. Representing a population of over 500,000 and growing, it is a research-based organization with some 50 employees and partners that collaborate with an additional 500-plus economic development organizations regularly. Get this. Ranked in recent years, Atlanta is known as one of the top 10 major North American cities of the future, top 5 best economic potential cities, top 10 largest economies in America, top cities with the most Fortune 500 headquarters, Forbes' fastest growing cities, America's 50 hottest cities for business, America's best jobs in the hottest markets, and top 10 metro areas, and more, much more. Quality of life, cultural hub, global gateway, health science, transportation, visitor and innovation hub, major college town, as well as a spectrum of community-oriented new and historic neighborhoods. What more can we have as a competitive advantage in the coming era of the global integrated economy of tomorrow? Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, October 25th, 2011, and this is a special Insider VIP Inside Edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. The Atlanta Development Authority, an historic, legendary economic development authority with a new mission and a new world-class economic development leadership with a proven record of successful performance. Tech Talk is proud to present Brian McGowan, the new president and CEO of the city's official development authority. Brian brings more than 15 years of economic development experience at all levels of government to the city of Atlanta. Brian has served as a U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Commerce and COO for the U.S. Economic Development Administration. He has also been detailed to the White House from July to November of 2010 to establish and lead an economic solutions group within the National Incident Command to help communities along the Gulf mitigate the economic impact of the BP oil spill. Before joining the Obama administration, Brian was appointed by Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and served as California Deputy Secretary of Economic Development and Commerce in the Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency. Prior to that, he was appointed as the Economic Development Agency Administrator for the County of San Bernardino, California, overseeing 4 departments focused on economic development, community development, housing, redevelopment, and workforce development. He has also served for the cities of Ontario and Palm Springs in California. In addition, McGowan served as consultant on a U.S. agency for international development, funding to help programs in the cities of Bulgaria and Serbia create economic development and growth strategies. While serving the state of California, McGowan created the California iHub program to strengthen California's economic development clusters and the California Certified Sites program to accelerate the development and process for new projects. Brian has also served on the boards of the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, the California Employment Training Panel, the California Workforce Investment Board, the International Trade Advisory Committee, and the California Travel and Tourism Commission. While serving in the Obama administration, McGowan worked to modernize the Economic Development Administration by streamlining operation systems, created new innovation challenge programs, supported America's regions through new trade and foreign direct investment programs, developed new economic development cluster initiatives, and expanded EDA's role in leading the federal economic development agenda. A tireless advocate of the small business and entrepreneurship, he recently was tapped by President Obama to be part of an initiative that engages directly with America's businesses to create jobs and increase competitiveness. He also served on the U.S. Historic Preservation Board and was elected vice chair of the Rural Working Party for the Organization of Economic Development Cooperation and Development in Paris. What more could Atlanta ask for? Well, let's hear Brian's thoughts in one of the new Authority president's first media interviews as Tino Tech Talks with the Insider about the future and shares his thoughts on its new dynamic and visionary new economic development leadership and strategy. It's all about how Atlanta is positioned to move ahead in the globally competitive world of expanding and growing the city technology sector. It's Tech Talk in a special Insider Report as Tino speaks with the President and CEO of the Atlanta Development Authority, Brian McGowan.
Brian, thank you for joining me in Tech Talk today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you've been a distinguished performer in a number of places around the country, notably in California and D.C., and I think I'd like to start out by just now you're here in Atlanta and speaking for the technology community and the people that we represent. I feel fortunate to have you here, and I know many people do.
Well, thank
you. In looking at Atlanta, you've been here now for several months, and in what ways does Atlanta location provide what we like to say competitive edge or competitive advantage to companies who are considering either locating here or growing their company here?
So, yeah, Atlanta really is a remarkable city on multiple levels. It's what I would consider a global gateway. So it offers companies access to, not only any place in the world physically through transportation infrastructure, but it's also a very connected city. So as I mentioned, it has the largest, busiest airport in the world, but it also has an expansive 21st century innovation infrastructure. So a lot of people, I don't know if they realize this, but Atlanta has one of the most advanced telecommunication infrastructures in the country. And Scientific American just recently ranked it as the 5th most technological city in the country. We also rank in the top 5 cities as far as higher education is concerned, with over 290,000 students in the region. So this really is a place where the best and brightest are coming from all over the world. We have Georgia Tech and Emory, the AU centers, and CDC. So it's really, really a remarkable city. I couldn't be happier to be here. It also has this real deep history of, I think, both social and business innovation. So innovation, I think, is in the culture of Atlanta. So if you think about the forward thinkers from the civil rights movement to President Carter, to the fact that Atlanta ranks 3rd in the nation for Fortune 500 headquarter locations, it's just, it has all the right pieces and assets to, I think, be a very, very competitive place in the 21st century economy. That's why I'm here.
Well, the ADA is certainly involved with lots of things beyond technology, but since it's the Technology Association of Georgia, we'll focus in on that. And I'm not sure historically if your organization is known, specifically for your energy applied to this. And I know your bent is to get more involved with that. So talk about how ADA plans to support technology companies and encourage them to growth here.
So the Atlanta Development Authority is the official economic development arm for the city of Atlanta. And so if you think about the region of 5.5 million people, the core of the apple is the city of Atlanta, and really has a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, these what I would call 21st century innovation infrastructure and assets. So the ADA typically, in the past up until this point, is really focused on real estate development. So it has a deep set of financial tools at its disposal to help companies locate and grow in Atlanta. So we have tax abatement programs. We can do bond financing for new developments. We can help companies with infrastructure, site selection help, permit assistance, et cetera. But we want to expand now beyond that and really begin to look at Atlanta's competitive position in the 21st century global economy, and really start working to help technology companies and our kind of primary innovation clusters grow and be successful and hire people and create jobs. So one of the things we're really going to be working on is to develop a more robust, what we call at the Department of Commerce, ecosystem to support entrepreneurs and innovators so that they can seed and, we can use Atlanta as a location to incubate and nurture our next generation of Fortune 500, 1,000 companies.
And I know you're working on some of that now, so that's great news, and we appreciate you really jumping into the fray in respect to technology and how we can grow that. I think you and I both believe, and you've read some of our information on where Georgia leads, that clusters are important. So in what ways can you say the state and the city of Atlanta continue to market our strengths and assets from a global standpoint? Because not only the airport and the port and the universities and the other things you mentioned, but also we have some strong clusters.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's one of those things the mayor and I agree on this, that I think Atlanta needs to brag more, needs to tell the world its story, because it really is a remarkable story. So we need to tell it more broadly. I don't think people realize the Fortune 500 and 1,000 presence in Atlanta. I don't think people realize the strength of Georgia Tech and Emory and the AU centers and the creative class, how international this city is. There's a young and creative class that want to be in Atlanta. And as I mentioned earlier, it's just a very connected city with a great quality of life. So when you really start thinking about, and we analyzed a lot of this when I was in Washington, D.C., you look at cities kind of second-tier or next-tier cities. So, beyond the mega cities of Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, there really is a rise of these second-tier cities. The Austins, the Denver, San Diego, Atlanta, I think, is clearly in this sweet spot of being a place that I believe is going to attract young, innovative, creative entrepreneurs in the 21st century. So it's really a matter of making sure that we are, taking advantage of our assets, telling the world about what we have to offer, and inviting entrepreneurs and innovators to come here and give them the support that they need to succeed.
Now, you spent time in California, certainly in a leadership role there, and I know that we always tag in conversations about technology and starting new businesses and kind of environment here, always kind of look to California as the benchmark. So how would you compare Atlanta to other communities around the country when it comes to their technology sector? And, how is it different in California, I would say, Silicon Valley, for example?
Good question. Interesting question. Atlanta is in a very business-friendly state. I'm excited about having the opportunity to do economic development in Georgia because, California is a difficult place to do business. It's highly regulated. It's very expensive. And we were doing everything we could to keep businesses from moving out of the state, moving into other lower cost or more business-friendly states. So I think Atlanta, just has a great opportunity because it is such a global city. That I think it can compete with any city in the United States. And as I've worked with 20, 30 different cities across the United States and think about the situation a lot of these cities are in right now, especially since the global recession of 2008, they're really struggling to reinvent themselves and figure out, how do they fit into a 21st century globalized economy, and what do they need to do to make those kinds of improvements and create the industry clusters and infrastructure to help grow and compete in a new economy, basically. And when you think about the assets I mentioned earlier about Atlanta, it has all of them, where a lot of cities might be able to claim, and even cities in California might be able to claim one or two or three. Atlanta's really got them all, from education to transportation to telecommunications to research and development. It really has all the right pieces, I think, to really compete well in a 21st century economy.
So we have the pieces of the puzzle. This is a good segue for my next question because along with that, Brian, I'm sure you agree with this, there needs to be good sound practices, certainly less regulated environment. We think we have that. But I'm sure over time you've picked up a bunch of tools in your toolkit, which I'll call best practices, and you've witnessed the success in other parts of the country. Are there a few things that you really want to implement here?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, creating an innovation infrastructure to support entrepreneurs, so that ecosystem support entrepreneurs. There was a program created out of Northeast Ohio called Jumpstart that we at the Department of Commerce worked very closely with. we refer to these organizations, and there's many of them across the United States. Jumpstart is one of the better examples. But we refer to them as RIANs, or Regional Innovation Acceleration Networks. So basically what they are is groups of organizations and institutions that have come together to provide support to entrepreneurs, help people get businesses started. So it's kind of like an incubator and accelerator without walls, is the way I describe it. So you get all the kind of support services you would get if you were in a business incubator, but you don't have to physically be in the incubator. So if you're low tech or high tech, if you're looking for access to capital, technical assistance, help writing a business plan, you can plug into this network and they'll get you to the right resource. Very, very successful across the United States. This particular organization, Jumpstart, has been jumping around and starting others in other parts of the country. So we're going to be looking to create a program like that here in Atlanta. And in California, as a program I actually was involved in creating, it was called the iHub program, or Innovation Hub program. And the best practices and programs we've seen across the United States in the last couple of years are ones that don't necessarily cost a lot of money, but encourage collaboration and institutions and organizations working together like they never have before, especially in a time of fiscal austerity. So the iHub program was basically a certification that the state was offering to regions that wanted to come together and support particular technology clusters. And so they were awarded, I think there's about 12 of them now throughout the state of California. But it's really about collaboration, just bringing people together to work together. And then the other great practice, or best practice that we've seen that, we're going to be jumping on immediately here in Atlanta is helping our small and medium-sized businesses engage in international trade, but also the attraction of foreign direct investment. So foreign direct investment not only to, hopefully get new employers and companies to locate in Atlanta, but also looking at capital for investment in companies that are in Atlanta. But with international trade, and it's a real sweet spot for, I think, American small and medium-sized businesses, because we're kind of behind the rest of the world in this. Less than 1% of American companies actually export. And of those, the vast majority of them export to only one or two countries. So we see that as a huge opportunity to create jobs and grow the economy.
Well, in our International Business Society, one of our 30 societies, I'm sure we'll want to partner with you on that activity. I have time for one more question. We had the governor recently kicked off our Where Georgia Leads campaign, and he talked about technology leading us out of the recession. So what do you see from your frame of reference in terms of America's technology sector in respect to, let's say, growth over the next few years?
Wow, it's a tough question. I think it's going to be tough, as we all know. Access to capital is a real issue right now, and we have an air of political uncertainty that I think is deeply affecting private sector investments. But at the end, my bet will always be on the American people and American creativity. But I think we all as Americans have to remind ourselves daily that we are now competing against other countries that we never thought we'd have to compete with before. So companies like Brazil and China and India and other emerging economies that America can no longer afford to kind of sit back on its laurels and think that it's going to be able to compete like it has in the past. So we have to invest in things like research and development, improving our K through 12 educational systems and our transportation infrastructure. Because if you can't efficiently move people, goods, and information, then you can't compete globally. So I think the next 2-3 years is going to be a very interesting time in our history. But as history has shown, in times of recession and kind of global economic changes, or when also times of great opportunity. So I think we're going to start seeing smaller companies being able to compete like they never have before with technology, but also with a lot of the larger companies kind of broken up and not spending money. I think it creates great opportunities for entrepreneurs. So it'll be an interesting 2 or 3 years, but again, I think America will lead this decade. I have no doubt about it.
Well, Brian, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk today. It's great to have you in town, and we look forward, representing TAG, to work closely with you to help make Atlanta and Georgia a strong technology community.
my pleasure, and we're looking forward to partnering with TAG and doing some big things. Thank you.